In the bustling heart of Lagos, where the chaotic rhythm of danfo buses and street hawkers drowned out the secrets of the night, stood Aunty Kemi's jollof joint. It was no ordinary eatery tucked away in the labyrinth of Yaba Market. It was a beacon for the weary and the wanderers, drawing crowds from as far as Abuja and even across the border from Benin. From the crack of dawn, when the first Okada riders revved their engines, until the wee hours when the city lights flickered like distant stars, people flocked to taste her legendary blood-red jollof rice. The dish was a fiery masterpiece, spices that scorched the palate like hot coals, yet layered with flavors so addictive that patrons licked their plates clean, begging for seconds. One bite, and you're hooked for life, they'd say, wiping sweat from their brows as the heat built in waves. But beneath the sizzle of onions and the steam rising from massive pots, whispers circulated among the locals. Aunty Kemi never haggled at the market for her ingredients. No one spotted her buying sacks of rice or crates of tomatoes from the vendors. Her jollof had an unnatural hue, deep crimson like fresh palm oil mixed with something darker, something that gleamed under the fluorescent bulbs. And her joint? It never shuttered its doors, not during power outages, not during rainy season floods, not even when the clock struck midnight and the streets emptied. She's got ancestors watching over her. Some joked, but others crossed themselves, muttering prayers under their breath. Questions lingered like the lingering aroma of her spices. Where did her supplies come from? Why did the air around her stall sometimes carry a faint, metallic tang, like rust or old coins? Enter Tunde, a sharp-witted university student from the University of Lagos, always poking his nose where it didn't belong. With his faded jeans, backpack slung over one shoulder, and a smartphone perpetually in hand, he was the type to debunk myths on social media, turning local legends into viral takedowns. Superstition is for the uneducated, he'd scoff to his friends over bottles of star beer. But Aunty Kemi's place intrigued him. He'd eaten there countless times. The jollof was indeed otherworldly, leaving him craving it even in his dreams. One sweltering afternoon, as the sun baked the tin roofs, he overheard two elderly women gossiping near a fruit stand. "That rice, it's not for the living alone," one hissed, glancing over her shoulder. "At night, when we sleep, she serves others." The other nodded, her eyes wide, the ones who shouldn't be hungry anymore. That evening, fueled by curiosity and a dash of bravado, Tunde decided to investigate. He told his roommate he was pulling an all-nighter at the library, but instead, he slipped into the shadows of Yaba, hiding behind a stack of empty crates near the joint's back alley. The market had wound down. Vendors packed up their wares, and the hum of generators faded into the night. The air grew thick, heavy with the scent of Aunty Kemi's spices, Scotch bonnet peppers, thyme, and bay leaves, but undercut by something else, something acrid and decaying, like overripe fruit left too long in the sun. As the clock ticked past midnight, the city seemed to hold its breath. Tunde checked his phone. 1:17 a.m. The joint's lights were still on, casting a warm glow through the open shutters. Aunty Kemi moved about inside, her ample frame silhouetted as she stirred a massive pot. Then they arrived. Not with the usual clamor of late-night customers, but silently, like ghosts materializing from the fog. Figures shuffled from the darkened alleys, their clothes ragged and outdated, faded agbadas and wrappers that looked like they'd been buried in dust. Their skin was ashen, pallid under the street lamps, and their eyes, oh, those eyes were voids, black pits that swallowed light. They moved with unnatural stiffness, joints creaking like old doors in the wind. Tunde's heart raced as he pressed himself deeper into the shadows, his phone camera rolling discreetly. These weren't drunks or beggars. They were wrong. One by one, they approached the counter, and Aunty Kemi greeted them with a serene smile, as if welcoming old friends. "Come, my dears," she cooed in Yoruba, her voice warm like a mother's lullaby. She ladled generous portions of the crimson jollof onto battered plates, the rice steaming and glistening. The figures devoured it ravenously, fingers scooping rice into mouths that chewed mechanically, endlessly. But no satisfaction crossed their faces. The hunger in their hollow eyes persisted, a bottomless void. Then, one turned its head, and Tunde's blood ran cold. It was his grandfather, Baba Ade, dead 5 years from a sudden stroke, buried in the family plot in Ikeja. Yet, here he was, or something wearing his face, hunched over a plate, rice staining his lips red. Tunde stifled a gasp, his mind reeling. How? Why? He shifted slightly, and his foot nudged a loose pebble, sending it skittering across the ground. The sound echoed like a gunshot in the stillness. Aunty Kemi's head whipped around, her eyes narrowing into the darkness. The figures paused mid-bite, their heads tilting in unison, those empty gazes piercing the night. Tunde bolted, legs pumping as he darted through the alleys, heart slamming against his ribs. He didn't stop until he reached his dorm, barricading the door and collapsing onto his bed, replaying the footage on his phone. It was blurry, but undeniable. Questions swirled. Who were they? Why did Aunty Kemi feed them? And what would happen if she stopped? The next morning, with the sun chasing away the night shadows, Tunde gathered his courage. He marched back to Yaba Market, where the joint buzzed with daytime patrons, office workers, students, and traders alike. Aunty Kemi was there, dishing out plates with her usual cheer, her apron spotless. Tunde pushed through the crowd, his voice steady despite the tremor in his hands. "Auntie, I saw them last night. The dead. You're feeding the dead." A hush fell over the market. Spoons clattered to plates, eyes widened in shock. Whispers erupted like a brush fire. Aunty Kemi paused, wiping her hands on a cloth, her expression unchanging. She sighed deeply, stepping out from behind the counter. "Yes, my boy," she said calmly, her voice carrying over the stunned silence. "I feed the forgotten ones." The crowd recoiled, some crossing themselves, others murmuring incantations. Tunde pressed on, his voice rising. "But why? How? That's my grandfather. He's supposed to be at peace." Aunty Kemi's eyes softened, but her tone turned grave. "Long ago, during the Biafran War, famine ravaged this land. Families abandoned their kin, left them to starve in the streets. The spirits of those unburied, those who died with empty bellies, they wailed in the afterlife. The gods bestowed upon me a gift, a recipe passed down from my foremothers." She scooped a handful of the uncooked rice from a sack, holding it up. It was unnaturally red, like dried blood. "This jollof is forged from the essence of the past, the ashes of the forsaken, the bones ground fine. When they eat, their hunger is sated, and they leave the living in peace." The market fell into a heavy quiet, broken only by distant traffic. Tunde swallowed hard. "And if you don't feed them, what then?" A shadow crossed Aunty Kemi's face, her eyes distant. "They will rise, boy, and their hunger will turn to us." That night, as Lagos pulsed with life, Tunde couldn't shake the unease. He shared snippets of his video online anonymously, watching likes and shares explode. Comments flooded in. "Fake. Witchcraft. We need to investigate." But deeper questions gnawed at him. What was the full extent of this gift? Were there more like Aunty Kemi? And why did the spirits choose her? Unbeknownst to him, Across the city, in shadowed corners, other eyes watched. The whispers grew louder, and the night air carried a faint, hungry moan.
We are hungry.
So here's a question for you. What do you think is going on? Should this story have a part 2? Let me know in the comments. Right here at African Folktales TV.
We are hungry.